We're gonna ease into the subject of this video because context can be very helpful, but really, and this is a tip for anyone that wants to have real helpful conversations online and otherwise, is that individuals who are disruptive and divisive, they do it because they have a dysregulated nervous system. And the reason why they love drama and arguing so much is that that releases dopamine. So if you don't give them an immediate hit and something for them to get excited by, you tend to lose them after 17 seconds on average. So after 30 seconds, you can actually have conversations with the sane individuals in the room. This is me at 14, 15. I guess I wear a shirt so you get a direct comparison. And this is me around the age of 25. And as you see, I look pretty cute during that period. I'm sure some of you are like, oh, it's so cute. But the reality is I was not very cute. That period of my life is riddled with violence. And I was a part of many criminal activities and organized crime. And the reason why I look like that was actually on purpose. As I grew up around criminals and I learned that the people who are getting in trouble are the ones that look like trouble. So I made sure that I looked as non-threatening as possible, and it really worked. I got away with so much because of it. And now to the unsurprising animal analogy part of the video. But we're going to look at our cousins, the orangutans, where the dominant males can be easily recognized by their size, but mostly by their phalanges, those chubby cheeks that develop with increased level of testosterone. Because similar to humans, our perception, hierarchical perception, will also influence our biological response and therefore will change how one feels and looks. And until relatively recently, we have taught that the dominant males kill other males, lower hierarchical males, because we would observe groups of orangutans and just see just the dominant males and the rest just females. But now at close observation, we see that the low hierarchical males, they just look like females. And to add to it, because they cannot directly compete with a dominant male, their approach to reproduction is rape. And this is a behavior found in humans too, where the males of the species that cannot compete fairly for their opportunities, they try alternative routes, like the nice guy, where they try to appear as non-threatening as possible, and they're extremely validating, which gives people a reason to keep them around, and they're just waiting for an opportunity that usually is revealed by a moment of vulnerability, or they are eventually given a chance, and a lot of people find out that they're extremely toxic, manipulative, controlling, and even abusive. Or the male feminist, which more often than not end up being the abuser or toxic one towards women. And really, for me, every time I hear a guy saying that he's a feminist, it's already a red flag, because in today's age, as a guy believing that men and women deserve equal rights, it's kind of the basic, right? So giving yourself some sort of validation and title and want to be celebrated for doing the bare minimum, it's already weird. And more often than not, they're trying to take the spotlight and speak for women. And isn't that completely the opposite of being a feminist? I think as a male feminist, you should just make sure that the women in your life and your community feel safe to speak out and have these conversations. It's not for you to have those conversations for them. And while on the subject of feminism, what is really going on? As the feminist movement initially was necessary, had extremely valid points, and the women and men that fought for the rights and opportunities of women today should be celebrated. Yet modern feminism seems to mostly be hijacked by political interest, corporate profits, and bitter people who enjoy division, as the outcomes of it seems to be detrimental to women and society as a whole. Women have some of the highest rates of mental health issues, and the use of pharmaceuticals for mental health, it's the highest in women. And yes, there's a lot of money that's being made of that, but is this the best for women? And the whole bashing of men part is not really helpful, especially towards young men. And if you're someone, well, that's not feminist, that's not me. perfect. But you can't be ignorant to that happening and that being an acceptable behavior. And if you don't make an effort to keep your own accountable to stop that behavior from happening, you are actually creating a very unsafe environment for women. Because similar to those low hierarchical male orangutans, celebrating and making fun of these incels, you will create a very volatile, aggressive male that now the next generation of women have to be concerned about, because you just think it's fun to make fun of them. I would say, to take it even a step further, and one of the main points of modern feminism should be to provide support to the younger generation of men who are statistically struggling from many points of view, because that will create a way better environment for the women of the future. And if I can give an example of healthy feminism, I will give my partner, as she's a product of colonialism and an arranged marriage, and her mother sacrificed and eventually got educated and then empowered her daughters to become these strong, independent women that people talk about. And they succeeded professionally, they succeeded in their personal lives. And now I see my partner going and mentoring young girls from the area she comes in to give the next generation even a better opportunity. And that didn't have to happen by demonizing masculinity. Actually, the masculine presence from her father and now from me allows a safe environment for her to be able to do all of this. Because essentially, that's what masculinity is about. It's about providing security. Masculinity seems to be misunderstood and purposely demonized, and that is creating a very unsafe, insecure environment that certain entities can easily take advantage of. And similarly, in the orangutan group and any other ape, the success of the dominant male, it's not about how big they are, it's about their ability to maintain relationships and peace within the group. And that might require a degree of enforcement. But no matter how big they are, if they become abusive, they can easily be outnumbered and discarded. And the misunderstanding happens when someone sees the dominant orangutan going and pinning down another smaller orangutan, and now it's being labeled as toxic. And people think, oh, we should get rid of the dominant orangutan, but the consequences of that are extremely dire for the females and the babies of that group. And that's where a big portion of the problem is. As a result of divisive brainwashing from the media, where masculinity has been portrayed as something that is bad, and being strong is not something you want to be. You want to be weak and non-threatening, which seems very convenient, as it resulted in more insecurity and more issues than ever. And I've seen it in myself, as being weak, resentful, and toxic, I managed to get away with literal crime. And working on myself and becoming strong, not just physically, but also emotionally and intellectually, and being able to enforce my values in my environment and create a safe environment for the people around me, for my relationship, for my community, I am labeled as toxic and dangerous because I now challenge the status quo. Recap. Masculinity is good. It's not just good, it's necessary. In order for us to have a society, in order for us to have flourishing, safe communities, we need strong men. Strong men are not a threat or the problem, the weak ones are. And in order for us to have strong men, we need to incentivize it. We need to celebrate being a strong man. We need to stop listening to this bullshit divide, and men and women need to come together to guide and support the new generation of men in them becoming competent and strong and be able to provide a safe environment for the ones around them. Because hard times create strong men create easy times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. What do you want?